The law of cure. Now, before you start using the technique, it is very important to understand this aspect of how your body functions as it brings itself back into balance. The law of cure is one of the overall guiding principles in determining cure, and it comes from Eastern medical principles. Like all the guiding principles of Eastern medicine, the law of cure was determined by nearly 2,000 years of observation and clinical practice before it was even written into the established medical textbooks. The principle has neither been changed nor been added to in the 3,000 years since it was first written down. Now, the law of cure states that healing takes place from inside to outside, from top to bottom, and in direct reverse chronological order as to when the trauma entered the body. It also states that when trauma is held in the body for a long time, there will be a revisiting of the original symptoms for a period of up to 48 hours as the trauma leaves the body. So when you begin an emotional healing process, your body will automatically use the law of cure, and it will heal in direct reverse chronological order. That means that you start with what is happening to you today and not what has happened to you in the past. The past is reflected in the present, so rather than starting with the past, you always correct what it is you are doing today that is reflective of the past. Let's look at how the law of cure works. Take bruising as an example. If you fall and badly bruise, say, your shoulder, the pain you feel settles itself deep within the muscles and tissues of the body. Then, over the course of time, as the process of healing takes place, the pain will diminish. At the same time, it will move towards the surface. The color of the bruising will diminish from black through green to yellow and is clearly visible on the surface of the skin. This is the path of healing for a physical injury, and it is very easy to observe. Even children can observe this. It always follows the same pathway and the same order of coloring as healing takes place. But what is not so easy to observe is the path of healing for emotional and mental injury, and it is far more difficult to see because there are no physical signs like the color change that occurs with bruising. But the procedure is exactly the same to that of the physical injury. Emotional bruising also settles itself into the structure of the body, but unlike a bruised shoulder, where we can assist the healing process by wearing a sling, there are often no slings available to assist with bruised emotions. Left untreated, emotional bruising becomes a heavy and dangerous and stressful burden for the body to bear. Now, the direct reverse chronological order is also easy to understand with physical bruising, as the path of healing moves back towards the original site of impact. Emotional bruising, on the other hand, also has to return itself to the original site of impact, but is less easily discernible, as quite often months, years, and even lifetimes will have passed without a person being given the opportunity to bring about emotional healing. For example, some people who are stressed, anxious, will often use drink and food as a comfort, and do so largely because they are unable to cope with their bruised feelings. This not being able to cope is mostly a result of unprocessed emotions. Unprocessed emotions become part of the emotional subconscious, and it is the emotional subconscious that mostly dictates how we conduct our daily lives. If our emotional interactions with other people are stressful, then we are constantly reintroducing stress into our bodies while pushing the emotional injuries deeper inside of ourselves. Now, take for example somebody who on a night drinks too much, and it leads them to do or say things that they might regret or feel embarrassed about the following day. This type of excess drinking introduces subconscious emotional trauma into the body. When you wake up the following morning, you have to consciously process this trauma. Emotions are normally processed during sleep by the subconscious, but excess alcohol also makes the subconscious drunk, and a drunken subconscious will process emotions in a drunken way. This renders useless the valuable process of sleep processing of the unconscious. This then creates the need to process the experience at a conscious level. However, most people will want to leave events of the previous evening behind them. They will often not be able to or wish to make a conscious processing of the actions of the night before and just say, "Oh, I made a right ass of myself last night. Anyway, let's get on with today." Because of this, the unprocessed emotions of the night before are felt as either stress or depression, often depression, as the person begins their new day. But the experience of the night before, the experiences of the night before are put to the back of the mind, and they have to go to, as a person has to go to work or deal with children or a multitude of life tasks. But the back of the mind does not exist. What we call the back of the mind is in fact your subconscious, both mental and emotional. This putting it to the back of the mind causes a pile-up of unprocessed emotions in the person and introduces the cycles that eventually become the holic or the addict. The pile-up retards the process of the law of cure, for as the body needs to evict the most recent traumas first, it will always observe the reverse chronological process of healing. Each time you drink too much, comfort eat, experience stress, you create a recent trauma, and recent traumas have to be evicted before the old trauma, the cause, can be dealt with by the law of cure. Because of this pile-up, it is often very difficult to get to the source of the original trauma, because as you continuously re-traumatize yourself, you are creating recent traumas, which actually strengthen the power of the original trauma. The longer it is left untreated, the longer the healing process will take, and the more difficult it will be to observe the process, as the conscious memory of the trauma will have long been transferred into the subconscious. Any system of medicine is just a facilitator for cure. It is not the medicine that does the curing, it is the level of balance of the body, mind and emotions that determines the level of cure. The good news is that the body knows how to cure itself, but you must set up the conditions that allow the healing process to take place. The law of cure allows us to see if we have set up the correct conditions to allow healing to take place. The law of cure is not a Chinese medical concept, even though it has been introduced to the world as part of this style of treatment. Cure is an inbuilt process that the body possesses at all three levels: physical, mental and emotional. To reinfect a physical wound would be thought of as an extremely unwise thing to do, and yet we reinfect our emotional and mental wounds on a daily basis without even a conscious thought. Running away from trauma only serves to strengthen the potency of the trauma until eventually you find yourself so far away from it that you have no idea what it was or what caused it in the first place. Now you can stop doing this with the LSR technique. Once you learn how to deal with the daily stress, then you begin to set up the conditions for cure to take place. Every adult has the ability to get at least 80% better once the conditions for cure have been correctly set up. It takes just a week of focus for every year that you have lived for a complete transformation to take place and for the law of cure to complete its work. And this is why you are supported through this program for this amount of time.